Dream of the Red Chamber Chapter 60.
Today, we are opening the gates to the Grandview Garden again, and we are zooming in on Chapter 60 of Dream of the Red Chamber.
Yeah.
And, on the surface, this reads like a sitcom script.
It really does.
We've got a mix-up with cosmetic powders, secret gifts, and a little bit of a petty deception.
It does sound lighthearted at first glance. The chapter title even hints at it. Jasmine powder replacing rose nitrate. It sounds like a comedy of errors or just a very low-stakes prank.
Exactly. But as we dig into it, it becomes pretty clear that this isn't just about makeup. This one small, petty deception over face powder seems to trigger a massive chain reaction.
Oh, absolutely.
It exposes the hierarchy, the deep-seated resentment, and frankly, some incredibly toxic parenting within the Gia household.
That is the perfect way to frame it. It's a microcosm of the household's decline. You see, the rot in the Gia family isn't just coming from the top down. This chapter shows how it's permeating the relationships between everyone.
Masters, concubines, servants, all of them.
All of them. It is a domino effect that starts with a tiny flick and ends with a massive crash.
So let's set the stage. We're in the Grandview Garden. It's busy.
Right.
The text mentions Yuren Bayu's chief maid. She's confused because everyone is just running around. She asks Ping, the executive assistant of the house, what's going on.
And Pinger gives this very cryptic hint. She says something like, it's something people wouldn't expect. It's funny. I'll tell you later. And then she just vanishes.
And she just takes off.
It's a classic literary hook, right? It creates suspense, but it also establishes that the household is in this state of flux. Everyone is plotting, moving, reacting.
And right in the middle of all this bustle, Bayu, our young master, decides to send his maid, Chunyin, on a diplomatic mission.
That's right, a diplomatic mission.
He sends Chunyin to apologize to Yinger, who is Bao Chai's maid. Apparently there was some friction earlier, which, there always is.
Always is.
And Bayu wants to smooth things over. So Chunyin heads out, but she's not alone. Her mother goes with her. And this is where we see a really strange power dynamic.
It is strange, especially if you look at it through a modern lens or even a traditional Confucian lens. Normally, the mother is the authority figure.
Of course.
But here, Chunyin, the daughter, is completely in charge. She is literally lecturing her mother as they walk across the garden.
She's not just lecturing. She's quoting proverbs at her. She's like, I've told you so many times to behave. And then she hits her with, you don't gain wisdom without experiencing an event.
Can you imagine saying that to your mother? Mom, you really need to learn from your mistakes.
It's unbelievable.
It's so striking because Chunyin represents the new guard. She's a young maid. She's close to the center of power, Baoyu. She understands the political nuances of the garden way better than her mother.
And her mother is sort of general labor.
Yeah. Exactly, an older servant. Chunyin is basically telling her mother to know her place, because that is the only way to survive in this ecosystem. She knows being stubborn or greedy will get them kicked out.
And to make sure her mother actually listens, Chunyin drops a bombshell. This is the part that made my jaw drop.
Oh, this is a huge moment.
She reveals a secret plan of Bayu's. She says that in the future, Bayu intends to release all the people in his house staff inside, staff outside, back to their parents to live freely. Why is this such a game changer?
Well, you have to look at the economics. For the mother, her life is servitude. She probably fears old age, being cast aside, dying poor.
Right.
The idea of being released, presumably with some savings or autonomy, it's a golden parachute. It changes her entire incentive structure.
Because her reaction is immediate. The text says she was joyfully busy asking if it's true, and once Chunyin confirms it, the mother starts chanting Amitabha.
She's pious all of a sudden.
She practically converts on the spot.
It's superstition mixed with ruthless pragmatism. She realizes her future security depends entirely on Bayo's goodwill. So if she behaves now, she secures that exit package later. It's not a spiritual awakening.
No, it's a strategic pivot.
A total strategic pivot.
She transforms from this grumpy, stubborn woman to being incredibly compliant in like 5 seconds.
Wow.
It really shows that in this house, information is currency.
It absolutely is.
So with this new attitude, they get to Hengwu Yuan, the Bao Chai's place. They do the apology. Everyone is polite. They drink tea. But as they're leaving, we get the incident that sparks everything else.
Yes, the inciting incident. Ru Guan, who is one of the young actresses living in the garden, stops them. She hands Chunyin a packet. It's Keng Wei Xiao rose nitrate.
Okay, let's pause on that. The notes describe this as a cosmetic powder, but is it just makeup?
It's more than that. It's actually medicinal and cosmetic. It's made from rose petals and nitrate, and it's used to treat skin conditions like rashes or ringworm, which were common in spring.
But it also doubles as a blush.
Exactly. So it's a high-end specialty item. You can't just buy this at the market. It's likely custom-made within the garden.
And Ruiguan is very specific about where it came from. She
Right.
tells Chenyin, this is mine, not my mistress's.
And that distinction is crucial. She's emphasizing personal ownership. She's giving it to Fangguan, another maid, as a gift between friends. It completely bypasses the masters.
So these maids have their own sub-economy.
They do. Their own friendships, their own private property that exists completely under the radar of the main hierarchy.
So Chenyin takes the rose nitrate to get back to Bayu's place, and Chenyin dismisses her mother at the door. You don't need to go in. And the mother, who used to be so difficult, is now 100% compliant.
She just walks away. That's the payoff of the secret Chunyin shared. The mother is pacified. But now, Chunyin enters the danger zone, Bayu's room.
This moves us into the second part of our breakdown, the swap. Chenyin gives the rose nitrate to Fangguan. They're whispering, keeping it low-key. And then the mood killer arrives. Bayu's younger half-brother, Jia Huan, walks in with his cousin Jia Kong.
And the contrast here is just painful to read. Bayu is the legitimate son, the golden child. Jiak is the son of the concubine, Zhao Yinyang. He is awkward, he feels unloved, and he acts out constantly.
And when he enters, the text says Bayu has nothing really to say to them.
Just awkward silence.
It's that uncomfortable family gathering vibe where you just stare at the floor. But then, Huan spots the packet in Fangguan's hand. He smells the fragrance. And this detail, get this, he bends down and pulls a piece of paper out of his boot to ask for some.
Out of his boot. It's so undignified. Aristocrats carry things in their sleeves or in pouches. Keeping paper in your boot suggests he's just scavenging.
He sees something nice,
Yeah.
and his first instinct is to beg for a piece of it. It just paints him as this desperate figure.
Total air.
And Bayu, being Bayu, just wants to avoid conflict. He says, yeah, give him half.
Yeah.
But Fangguan, she is not having it.
No. This puts Fangguan in a really tight spot. This rose nitrate was a personal gift from her friend Ruiguan. It has sentimental value. She refuses to give it to the master's awkward brother.
She tells Bayu, don't touch this one, I'll get some other.
But she doesn't have any other rose nitrate. She checks her box. It's empty.
She's stalled herself into a corner. And this is where the class dynamics get so messy. Another maid, Musha, she's impatient. She wants to go eat.
Right. She just wants to get this over with.
So she tells Fangguan, just hurry up. How could they tell?
How could they tell? That line is just dripping with condescension. She's basically saying Jia Huan is too stupid or too low class to know the difference between high-end cosmetics and cheap junk.
It is a moment of pure arrogance from the servants.
It is. They serve Baoyu, the favorite son, so they feel superior to Jia Huan, even though he is technically a master and they are slaves. It's a proxy status. They borrow Baoyu's shine to look down on his brother.
So Fangguan makes a choice. She grabs a packet of Moly Fen jasmine powder. Just to clarify for everyone, what's the difference? Is this like swapping Coke for Pepsi, or is it more dramatic?
Oh, it's more like swapping prescription medicine for talcum powder. Jasmine powder is common, it's white, it's fragrant, but it's cheap. It doesn't have the medicinal properties or the red hue of the rose nitrate.
It's a total knockoff.
A complete knockoff, something you can buy anywhere.
So she wraps up the cheap stuff and literally tosses it onto the bed platform, the Kang. She doesn't even hand it to him politely.
She throws it. That gesture is so disrespectful. And Jia Huan, he picks it up, tucks it into his chest, and leaves, happy. He thinks he scored a victory.
It's heartbreaking in a way. He really thinks he won. But this is where the comedy ends and the tragedy begins.
Absolutely. Now we get to the unraveling.
Right. Jia Huan is playing hooky from school because his strict father is away. He rushes to see his lover, the maid Kaiyun. He wants to show off.
He's trying to impress her.
He presents the powder and says, "This is rose nitrate. It's better than the silver nitrate from outside." He's trying to buy affection with what he thinks are luxury goods. Look at what I got from the VIP room.
But Kaiyun opens the packet and just laughs.
She bursts his bubble immediately. She says it's jasmine powder. And then she delivers the line that must have stung so bad. "They are fooling you, the country bumpkin."
Ouch. Country bumpkin.
That cuts deep. But look at Juan's reaction. He looks closer. He sees it's a bit redder than nitrate, but instead of getting angry at the maids, he tries to rationalize it.
He does. He says, it smells good anyway. Better than what's bought outside.
Why does he do that? Why defend the people who just tricked him?
It's a defense mechanism. If he admits he was tricked, he has to confront the fact that the maids, the lowest rung of the ladder, have absolutely no respect for him.
And that's humiliating.
It proves he has no power. If he accepts the jasmine powder as good enough, he can stay in his denial. He wants to save face in front of his girlfriend.
But there is one person in the room who cares 0% about saving face.
Oh, yeah.
Zhao Yinyang, his mother. She enters the chat, and she chooses violence.
She always chooses violence. Zhao Yinyang is a fascinating, tragic, and terrifying character. She hears that her son has been tricked, and she doesn't comfort him. She goes on the attack against Huan.
She gets furious. She tells them to take the powder and throw it in their faces.
Yeah.
She wants to break the peace.
And she's very specific. She says, Bayu is the brother, so we can't attack him, but surely we can confront his cats and dogs, meaning the maids. She understands the hard limits of the hierarchy.
She knows she can't touch Bayu, the golden boy.
Right. But she feels she should have authority over his servants, so when they disrespect her son, she feels it as a direct attack on her own status. But notice, instead of acting herself, at first she tries to weaponize her son.
And the verbal abuse is just intense. She calls him low class, says he has no backbone. She says, I'm ashamed for you.
She accuses him of only being tough with her, glaring and stomping at his own mother while letting these little bastards walk all over him. It's a devastating critique because it's partially true.
It is. He is cowardly outside, but aggressive at home.
But she is projecting all her own insecurity and shame onto him. She feels powerless, so she hates that he is also powerless. She's trying to shame him into being dominant.
But this time, Huan pushes back. And this is where the psychology gets really interesting. He snaps. He tells her, you're all talk. You accuse me of being afraid, but you're afraid to act yourself.
This is a rare moment of clarity for Huan. He sees the hypocrisy. He knows the cost of rebellion is physical pain for him. He gets beaten. She just rants and yells.
But then in his anger, he overplays his hand. He says the one thing he absolutely should not say.
The trigger phrase.
He says, you are afraid of third sister, Tanjun, but you dare me to go. If you dare go, I will bow to you.
And he brings up Tanjun. For listeners who might need a refresher, Tanjun is Zhao Yinyang's biological daughter, but Tanjun is incredibly capable, intelligent, and aligns herself entirely with the legitimate masters. She has effectively disowned her mother socially to survive.
So Zhao Yinyang has a massive complex about Tanjun.
Massive. Tanjun represents everything Zhao Yinyang wants but can't have. Respect, authority, dignity. And to be told by her son that she fears her own daughter, that pokes her lungs, as the text says, it just destroys her ego.
She screams, I crawled out of my own gut would I fear her. That imagery is so visceral.
It is, and it snaps the last tether of her sanity. She isn't thinking about jasmine powder anymore. She grabs the packet and just sprints toward the garden.
She is going to cause a scene, not because of the powder, but because she needs to prove she isn't afraid of her own daughter.
Exactly. She needs to assert her existence.
And poor Kaiyun tries to stop her, but can't. Then what does Jie Huan do? The guy who started this whole mess by begging for powder?
He runs away.
He runs to the outer gate to play.
It's perfect, isn't it? He lights the fuse and then abandons the building. It highlights his immaturity, sure, but also his survival instinct. He knows an explosion is coming.
Honestly, this chapter it's a masterclass in how things just fall apart.
So true.
If you really want to understand how a dynasty collapses, you don't look at the emperor. You look at the maids fighting in the kitchen.
It's kind of the broken windows theory for, 18th century Chinese aristocracy. We're seeing what happens when the old hierarchy, the old guard, the servants and concubines smashes up against this new chaotic power center.
Which is this group of teenage actresses.
Mm.
And it is violent. I mean, we're not talking about polite disagreements here. We're talking headbutting, hair pulling, tactical fake suicides. It's a lot.
Why a semi-royal concubine gets beaten up by a gang of theater girls, and why the solution to all this violence actually shows us the family is already doomed.
Well, to understand the explosion, you have to look at the spark. And that spark, Zhao Yinyang.
Concubine Zhao. Tanjun and Jie Huan's biological mother. Now, you might remember her as a villain, always scheming, very bitter. She's done some nasty stuff with witchcraft.
Yeah.
But here, she almost starts off sympathetic.
I mean, I wouldn't go so far sympathetic, but she's definitely the aggrieved party in her own head. She comes into the garden just fuming. She feels erased. The text uses this really specific phrase for her grievance.
Oh, wait.
She says the actresses are watching the person to place the dish.
Watching the person to place the dish, that is such a vivid image.
It's an idiom, right? About serving food based on who's more important, not who's hungry. And Zhao is realizing that even though she's technically a master,
Yeah.
she's the father's concubine, she has legitimate kids,
Yeah.
these young actresses just ignore her.
They treat her like she's invisible.
Exactly. They fawn all over Bao Yu, the golden boy, but Zhao, she might as well be furniture.
So she's just stomping through the garden looking for somewhere to vent. And she finds Xia Posey, Granny Xia. Now, in a functioning system, an older servant like Xia, she's supposed to be the pressure valve, right? She should be saying, Madam, calm down, have some tea, let's talk about this.
But the system isn't functioning. Xia Posey is part of what I'd call the alliance of the disgruntled.
Ha, I like that.
She's the dry mother to one of the actresses, Uguan, but she can't stand them. She sees them as these upstarts who don't know their place. So instead of de-escalating, she sees an opportunity. She can use Zhao.
She weaponizes her.
Precisely. She hands Zhao a strategy. The text translates it so beautifully. She tells Zhao to make a raft.
Make a raft. I love that.
Yeah.
It sounds like something a lawyer would say.
It's about constructing a pretext. You can't just attack someone because you're annoyed. That makes you look petty. You need a legitimate grievance to stand on a raft to float your anger.
And Xia gives her the lumber for that raft.
She gives her 2 big pieces of lumber. First up is the jasmine powder incident.
Right, with her son, Jia Huan.
Exactly. The actress Fang Guan gave him what he thought was nitrate powder, like a medicine. Turns out it was just jasmine face powder.
Right.
A prank.
A bit of teasing.
But Xia reframes it. She tells Zhao, look, this wasn't a joke. This was them mocking your son, mocking your entire lineage.
And then the second piece of lumber, that's the nuclear option, isn't it? The burning of the paper money.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge taboo. You do not burn spirit money inside the garden. It's seen as summoning ghosts, bringing uncleanliness into the house. It's just bad luck. And Xia reveals that the actresses did this, and Baiyu covered it up.
So Xia is basically handing her a loaded gun. She's saying, they mocked your son and they cursed the house. You have the moral high ground. Go get them.
She's coaching her. She literally tells Zhao to go shake her prestige. She wants Zhao to be the battering ram here, because Xia can't do it herself. If Xia hits an actress, she's fired.
But if a concubine does it...
It's just discipline. Or so she thinks.
But there's a real cowardice to it. Xia says, oh, I'll stand by you, I'll be a witness. But that just feels like a promise written in water.
Oh, absolutely. But it tells you something about how the older servants see these girls. Xia tells Zhao that they aren't genuine goods.
Genuine goods. Ouch.
It's dehumanizing. She's saying they were bought, like props for a play, and in Xia's mind, they're just property.
Yeah.
So punishing them is low risk. I mean, who cares if you break a prop?
Which turns out to be a massive, massive miscalculation. So Zhao marches off to Green Delights, that's Bayu's place, armed with her raft. She's ready for war.
Baiyu isn't there, which is probably for the best.
Definitely. But Fang Wan, the girl from the powder prank, she's just sitting there eating dinner.
And notice the escalation. Zhao doesn't start with words. She doesn't ask, did you give my son fake powder? She walks in and throws the jasmine powder right in Fang Wan's face.
And just bam, right in the face.
A physical assault, straight out of the gate.
No questions asked.
It completely blindsides Fang Wan. And then comes the verbal attack. And all of Zhao's insults are about class. Little whore, powderhead, reminding her she was bought with the family's silver. She's trying to shout the old hierarchy back into existence.
Right. I am master, you are servant. But this is where that new power dynamic really kicks in. A traditional maid would just kneel and beg for mercy. But Fang Wan, she wipes the powder off and argues right back.
And her defense is fascinating. She completely rejects the premise of Zhao's authority. She makes a weak excuse about the powder, but then she pivots. She says, I am not a slave to your household.
That is such a bold distinction to make. She's basically saying, I work for the Jia Corporation, not the Zhao franchise.
Exactly. She's asserting her independence from Zhao personally, and she defends her personhood. She says, I might act, but I don't go outside to sell myself. She refuses the label of whore.
It's a line in the sand.
It is.
So Huron, the senior maid, she tries to be the HR manager and step in, stop talking nonsense. But it's too late. Zhao slaps Fang Wan.
And the slap just changes everything. It's not a scolding anymore. It's a brawl. But before we get to the fight, we have to talk about Qingwen.
Oh, Qingwen, the agent of chaos.
While Shirin is panicking, Qingwen is on the sidelines whispering to her, don't intervene. She says, let them fight.
Disorder's king.
Now, disorder is king. That line gives me chills every time. King Wen represents this cynical detachment. She knows the whole system is broken, and she's just grabbing popcorn to watch it burn.
And burn it does, because Feng Wan has a squad.
Yep. The other actresses, Wu Guan, Rui Guan, Kui Guan, Du Guan, they hear the crying, and they don't hide.
They swarm.
They absolutely swarm. This isn't just a fight. It's like pack hunting. The text specifically says Du Guan headbutts Zhao.
A headbutt. Think about that for a second, the indignity of it. A concubine of the house getting headbutted in the stomach by a teenage actress.
It's a complete inversion of the social order. The props are fighting back.
And it's so tactical. They surround her, they grab her hair, hold her arms. And the genius part? They are crying the whole time.
That's the brilliance of it.
Right.
By crying, they keep up this facade of being the victims while they are physically pummeling her. If they were laughing, they'd be seen as rebels.
Right.
But if they're wailing in distress, while their hands just happen to be ripping at Zhao's clothes, that creates plausible deniability.
And then they play the ultimate card. They start yelling, just kill the four of us and be done with it. And Feng Wan just drops to the floor and plays dead.
It's asymmetrical warfare. They know Zhao cannot afford to have a death on her hands. They're basically calling her bluff. By saying, kill us, they strip away all her leverage.
It's just total anarchy. You've got a fake suicide, a headbutting, a crying mob, which finally brings out the heavy hitters. Senior management arrives, and leading them is Tan Shen.
And this, for me, is the emotional climax of the chapter. Tan Chun, the brilliant manager, who is also Zhao's biological daughter.
Ugh, that relationship is always so painful to watch. Tan Shen is the master, and her own mother is technically her servant. It's just a mess.
And Tan Chun's reaction is, well, it's just so telling. She doesn't comfort her mother. She doesn't even ask if she's hurt.
She goes straight into manager mode, interrogation mode.
She frames the whole thing through the lens of Taidong dignity, propriety.
And she just destroys Zhao with logic. She points to another concubine, Zhu, and says, look at her. No one ever bullies her because she respects herself.
It's so harsh. She's telling her own mother that the reason she gets no respect is because of her behavior. If you act like a street brawler, you're going to get treated like one.
And then she uses that brutal metaphor, the cat and the dog.
She says if a cat or a dog scratches you, you don't scratch it back, you report it to the managers.
Which silences Zhao, and it sounds very noble, dignity and all that, but let's unpack what she's actually saying. She is calling the actresses animals.
She is. To Tan Chun, the class divide is absolute. The actresses are pets. Dangerous pets, maybe, but still pets. And by fighting them, she argues, her mother lowered herself to their level, to the level of livestock.
That's the argument that shames Zhao into silence, not the violence, but the degradation of her rank.
Exactly.
So Tan Shen wins the battle. She sends her mother home, but she knows this wasn't spontaneous. She can smell that alliance of the disgruntled.
Tan Chun is smart. She knows her mother isn't clever enough to come up with that whole raft strategy on her own, so she demands an investigation. And this is where we see just how leaky the garden really is.
It's like a high school rumor mill on steroids. Another actress, Aiguan, immediately snitches on Xiapuzi.
And the warning chain just activates. A maid warns Xia's granddaughter, Zhangji. Zhangji runs to the kitchen to warn her grandmother.
Which leads us to that kitchen scene. I think this scene is just as important as the fight. Xiapuzi is there, terrified, and who walks in?
Feng Guan, the girl who just got slapped, who just played dead. And look at her. Is she traumatized? No. She is arrogant. She strolls in to order dinner for Bayu.
And not just any dinner. A cold, sour, vegetarian dish with no heavy oil. She is flexing. She is showing everyone in that kitchen that she controls what the golden boy eats.
This is where the class resentment just boils over. Changji, the granddaughter of the woman who just tried to ruin Feng Guan, she tries to make peace. She offers Feng Guan a pastry, a cake.
And Feng Guan, she breaks it into pieces and throws it to the sparrows.
It is such a cruel, calculated moment. You have to remember, for Changji, that cake is a resource. It's food, it's labor. For Feng Guan, it's just birdseed.
Changji's reaction is so visceral. She says something like, thunder should strike the sinner. She points out the injustice.
We were born servants and we have to serve you, the people who are just bought for entertainment. And that's the rot at the core of the garden. The actresses have bypassed the whole system. They have the ear of the master by you, so they get the resources. The old servants who play by the rules get nothing.
Right. Feng Guan is just flaunting her untouchability. It shows that Tan Shen's speech about cats and dogs. It might have silenced her mother, but it solved nothing.
Exactly. The cats and dogs are actually very powerful. and very rude. And the chapter ends with this quiet little transaction involving rose dew.
Oh, right. The cook, Mrs. Liu, is suddenly very nice to Feng Guan.
Because she wants some of this rose dew for her daughter. It's a precious commodity. And Feng Guan just confirms she finished the last bottle and promises to get more.
It's basically a bribe, isn't it? Buying favor.
It's the economy of the garden. Feng Guan gets luxury goods from Bao Yu to give to the staff, like Mrs. Liu, to make sure she gets good food, good treatment. It's all about these little alliances.
So the rose dew is the currency of corruption.
It is. It buys silence. It buys loyalty. If you're in the loop, like Feng Guan, you have rose dew. If you're out of the loop, like Zhao or Xia, you have nothing.
Tanshin's lecture about dignity just feels so hollow when you look at it that way. She's preaching ethics while the whole place runs on a black market.
That's the tragedy of it. Tanshin is trying to enforce these Confucian ethics, order, hierarchy, respect, but the garden is running on, Machiavellian economics.
Oh, yeah.
The actresses don't care about dignity. They care about survival and power, and they're winning. If you want to understand how a massive household like this actually runs, you have to look at its informal economy.
Exactly. It's not about the official wages. It's about access. It's about gifts, and it's about who you know. It's about who holds the keys to the good stuff.
And we have a perfect case study for this in Chapter 60. We're going to track the movement of two very specific items, a bottle of rose dew and a box of something called Foolinfrost.
Which, I mean, they sound like things you'd find on a luxury spa menu, but here they're basically contraband.
They're currency. And tracking them uncovers this whole web of ambition, office politics, romance, all of it happening among the servant class.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We are below stairs, as you said. We're with a woman named Mrs. Liu.
Yeah.
What's her deal?
Mrs. Liu's is our anchor. She's a cook. So in the Jia family hierarchy, that's respectable, but it's not elite. She's not a personal maid dealing with jewels and hair.
She handles the rice. Essential but invisible to the top brass.
Precisely. But she has an asset, and that asset is her 16-year-old daughter, Fivey.
Those are in the text, right.
And the book paints this really specific picture of her. She is stunningly beautiful. Like, the author compares her directly to the heavy hitters of the maid world pinger, Siren.
Wow, that's a huge compliment. Those women are basically the executive assistants of this entire estate. They have immense power.
She's got the hardware, but the software's a bit glitchy. The text says she has a weak illness. She's frail.
And that's a problem. In this world, being frail and beautiful is for the tragic heroines, like Lin Daiyu. For a servant, that just sounds like a liability.
It is. If you can't do hard labor, what good are you? So this is the problem Mrs. Liu is trying to solve. She's got a daughter who's too beautiful for a common marriage, but too sick for common work.
So she comes up with a plan.
She does. She wants to get Fivey a job in Bayu's personal quarters.
Why Baiyu specifically?
It's a very calculated move.
Yeah.
The work in his room is famously light. He's indulgent. He doesn't beat his staff. And there are so many maids there already, you can kind of just blend in. Plus, there's that rumor that Bayu will eventually set his maids free. So it's an exit strategy.
But she can't just apply for the job.
No. There's a hiring freeze on, which we'll get to. She has to use the back door. So she's been strategically grooming a contact, Feng Guan.
Ah, one of the former actresses. She works for Baiyu.
And Mrs. Liu has been buttering her up, giving her extra nice meals from the kitchen, prioritizing her orders.
Yeah.
It's the first step in the favor
I
economy.
give you good food. You owe me access.
And that favor gets called in with the rose dew incident.
Right. Let's get to the heist.
So Feng Guan goes back to Bayu's apartment. The timing is chaotic. Bayu's just dealt with some family drama with his concubine mother, Aunt Sao. But Feng Guan sees her chance. She asks Bayu for some rose dew for Fivey.
And Bayu's reaction says everything about him, doesn't it? He doesn't check the inventory. He doesn't ask any questions.
No, he just says, I don't really drink it. Take the whole bottle.
Yeah.
For him, it's just stuff. He's at the top of the pyramid, just scattering resources without a thought.
But for everyone else, this is a massive transfer of wealth. What does it even look like?
The text describes it's a 5-inch glass vial, and the liquid looks like rouge when you hold it to the light. It's so foreign that when Mrs. Liu gets it, her first thought is that it's Western grape wine.
That's such a great detail. It just shows the class gap right there. She doesn't even know what she's holding.
Feng Guan hands it over. It's only partially full, but she says, take the bottle too. Even the container is valuable.
And Fivey's reaction is just so honest. She's standing there inside the garden for once, and she says she feels better already.
It's the placebo effect of status.
Yeah.
She literally says the back area is boring, just rocks and walls. But here, inside the perimeter, Even the air feels medicinal.
But she wants more than just the medicine. She asks about the job, and that's where they hit the wall.
Yes, the hard wall of household politics.
Yeah.
Fang Guan has to let her down gently. She says, yes, technically there are 2 vacancies. One maid left, another was fired.
So the spots are open. Why can't Fyvie just slide in?
Because there is a new sheriff in town, Tanshin,
Bayu's half-sister. She's managing the household now.
and she's on a warpath against corruption. Fang Guan uses this incredible metaphor. She says Tanshin is looking for someone to tie to a raft.
Make an example of.
A public example. To prove she's impartial, she's been rejecting requests from her own mother, concubine Zhao. So if she's saying no to her own mom,
Then nobody else dares to ask. That is some sharp organizational leadership. To prove you're serious about reform, you punish your own side first.
it works. Even Pinger, who is maybe the most politically savvy person in the whole book, advises them to wait. She says, delay a day. Don't run right into the net.
Strategic patience. But Fyvie is 16 and desperate.
She is. And she gives 3 reasons why she needs this job right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect mix of vanity, economics, and almost superstition.
Okay, what are they?
First, face. She wants to give her mother bragging rights to prove it wasn't in vain that you raised me.
Social capital. It matters.
Second, hard cash. She wants the monthly allowance to help the family.
Makes sense. And the third?
Health. This is the fascinating one. She basically argues that getting this job will cure her illness. She says if her mood improves, she won't need medicine.
So she's framing her employment as a cost-saving measure. It's a desperate pitch. Let me work so I don't die.
And Fang Guan promises to keep trying. So she leaves, and now Mrs. Lu is holding this precious rose dew. And this is where things start to get risky.
Because she doesn't just save it for her daughter.
No. She decides to become a distributor. She wants to skim a little off the top. She has a nephew who is sick with heat stroke.
And Fyvie, who is actually much sharper than her mom here, pushes back.
Fyvie is paranoid, and she's right to be. She warns her, don't do it. She knows this bottle is basically contraband. If anyone asks where a cook got imperial-grade rose dew, what's the answer?
It looks like theft.
Exactly. But Mrs. Lu has this different mindset. She's like, we earned this. Are we thieves? She sees it as a valid payment for her good service to Fang Guan.
So she ignores the warning.
Ignores it completely, pours half of it into a cup, and takes it over to her brother's house. And, it works. A nephew drinks it with some cold well water and instantly feels better.
So the favor is paid forward. Fang Guan pays Mrs. Lu pays her nephew. But then the antagonist enters.
Yes. Just as Mrs. Lu is basking in the glow of being the rich aunt with magic medicine, a group of young men arrive, and one of them is Qian Huai.
Okay, let's profile this guy. He's not just some random suitor.
No, he's a shark. Qian Huai is the nephew of Aunt Zhao.
The same Aunt Zhao, concubine mother.
The very same. Which makes him sort of a cousin to Tanshin. He works at the treasury, he has connections, he has money, and he has a serious grudge.
Because he wants to marry Fyvie.
He's obsessed with her, but she keeps rejecting him. And this is where the class ambition really shows. Qian Huai should be a good match, but Fyvie sees herself as above him.
She's holding out for that job in the garden, refusing to settle for the accountant in the outer circle.
And Qian Huai is furious. The text says he's angry and ashamed and is plotting to force the marriage.
So when Mrs. Lu sees him, she panics.
She knows how dangerous he is. She makes up an excuse, oh, I have to go serve rice, and tries to bolt.
But she doesn't leave empty-handed. This is where the second item comes in, the fooling frost.
Right at the door, her sister-in-law stops her and hands her a package, a return gift for the rose dew.
And the origin of this gift is just as shady.
Oh, absolutely. The sister-in-law explains that her husband, Mrs. Lu's brother, works at the main gate. A Cantonese official came to visit and gave them this stuff as a gate gift.
Which is a bribe. Let's just call it what it is.
100%. It's a tip. So you have rose dew flowing down from the masters and fooling frost flowing up from outsiders trying to get in. And both end up with Mrs. Lu.
What even is fooling frost? The description is wild.
It's poria, a kind of fungus from pine roots. But this is the super processed pure white powder from 1,000-year-old pines. It's basically a high-end nutritional supplement.
And the instructions for how to take it are very specific.
This is the part that always gets me. The sister-in-law says the best way to take it is mixed with human milk.
Human milk? You're kidding me.
I am not. For maximum benefit, yes. If you can't get that, cow's milk will do. Boiling water is a last resort.
What does that even tell you about their world, that human milk is a suggested mixer?
It speaks to the extractive nature of their health fads, the idea that the bodies of the lower classes, wet nurses, are just resources for the health of the rich.
But the gift is for Fivey.
Yes, explicitly. The sister-in-law says it's to cure her illness. And here's the irony. She tried to deliver it earlier, but Fivey had locked the door because she was inside the garden getting the rose dew.
The two cures literally passed in the night.
It's a perfect closed loop. The liquid rose dew goes out, the powdered fueling frost comes in, everyone is trading up.
So Mrs. Liu has the box of white powder. She's heading back to the garden, probably feeling pretty good about her day.
Until she gets to the gate.
And the mood just shifts. She runs into a servant boy.
A little monkey, she calls him. He's laughing, but what he says is chilling. He says, "Where have you been? You are in trouble."
He tells her people have been looking for her 3 or 4 times, and then he asks her a question that just shatters everything.
He says, "Which path did you come from? That's not the way home. I'm starting to get suspicious."
And that's where we leave her, standing at a gate, holding a box of unexplained powder with a bottle of unexplained dew back in her kitchen, while the authorities, run by the ruthless Tanshin, are hunting for her.
It brings us right back to that main tension. Mrs. Liu and Fivey think they're playing the game. They're networking, trading favors.
But they're playing this game during a crackdown.
Exactly. In a stable system, these gifts are perks. But during a political purge, which is what Tanshin is running, perks start to look a lot like evidence.
And we still have Qian Wai, the antagonist, plotting in the background. Mrs. Liu thinks she's just being a good mom, but she's accidentally created a glass vial trail that leads right back to her daughter.
And it really makes you think about the fragility of this whole ecosystem. They're all hustling to survive. But one wrong move, one intercepted package, and the whole thing could just collapse.
It makes you question what a gift even is in this novel. Is the rose dew a blessing or a liability?
I mean, in the story of the stone, a gift is almost always a debt. And debts have to be paid.